Let's go Lions! Recently, news broke that shook the web. Many people were outraged by the NFL's decision and others agreed. We'll talk about this and much more, so stay until the end to stay well informed. Enjoy and click the like button and comment below. Go Lions! Let's start with the big news about Jameson Williams. After months of speculation, the NFL has officially ruled on the incident involving Williams and an unlicensed firearm. According to the Detroit Free Press, the league will not issue any discipline against Williams, and the matter is considered closed. This is a huge sigh of relief for Lions fans and, of course, for Williams himself, who can now move forward without any distractions towards 2025. For those who may not remember, it all started last season, when Williams was a passenger in a car that was pulled over for speeding. Police discovered that he had a firearm registered in his name, but he did not have the proper license for it at the time. He was briefly detained but later released without charge. Things got worse when the police department reopened the case and filed a warrant request, but prosecutors denied it, saying there was no legal basis for an arrest. This led to much speculation about whether the NFL would step in with its own punishment, but now we know Williams is free. This is great news for the Lions as they continue to build around their young, explosive wide receiver. Having already served suspensions in the past for gambling violations and performance-enhancing drugs, there was a real concern that he could be sidelined once again. But now, with this chapter behind him, Williams can focus solely on developing into the dynamic playmaker we all know he can be. And let's be honest, with the way our offense is shaping up, having him out there for the entire season could be a game-changer. Speaking of building for the future, let's talk about the 2025 NFL Combine and what it means for the Lions' offensive line. This year's draft class is loaded with talent on the interior offensive line, which is great news because, as GM Brad Holmes put it, that's the engine of this team. He made it clear after the season that no matter how strong the offensive line is, he'll never stop looking for ways to improve it. And let's be real, protecting Jared Goff and opening up holes for our running backs is a top priority. At the moment, Detroit holds the 28th pick in the draft, which puts them in prime position to land one of the best interior linemen. Some of the biggest names to watch at the Combine include Alabama's Tyler Booker, Missouri's Armand Membu, and Ohio State's Donovan Jackson. All three of these guys have the size, strength, and skill sets to make an immediate impact, and if the Lions see the right fit, don't be surprised if they pull the trigger on one of them in the first round. But what about our current situation on the offensive line? Well, that's where things get interesting. Veteran Kevin Zeitler is set to become a free agent, and at 34, it's unclear whether he and the Lions will make another deal. He was rock solid last season, but the front office needs to weigh the cost of bringing him back versus getting younger at the position. Then there's Graham Glasgow, who had a down year after moving to left guard. He struggled in pass protection, allowing 45 pressures on the season, the fourth most among all guards in the league. That's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially with Christian Mahogany waiting in the wings after a promising rookie season. If the Lions decide to move on from one or both of their veteran guards, we could see them target someone like Gray Zabel from North Dakota State or Tate Ratledge from Georgia in the later rounds. Both of these guys bring toughness and versatility to the table, which are exactly the traits Holmes and Dan Campbell love in their linemen. And if you're looking for a sleeper to keep an eye on, check out Marcus Mbow from Purdue. He's an absolute athletic freak who played right tackle in college but is expected to transition to guard at the next level. His ability to move in space could make him an ideal fit for the Lions' zone blocking scheme, and he could end up being a steal on day 2 of the draft. So, Lions fans, what do you think? Are you relieved that Jameson Williams won't be facing any suspension? And how do you feel about the possibility of drafting another offensive lineman in the first round? Let me know in the comments. So, here's the deal. Jeff Risdon from Lions Wire recently dropped his mock offseason 2.0, and in it, he has the Detroit Lions pulling off a blockbuster move to land Cleveland Browns superstar edge Myles Garrett. This trade proposal? It's a big one, and it would change the entire outlook of this defense. Here's what the Lions would give up. The number 28 overall pick in this year's draft, a third-round pick, number 101 overall, next year's first and third-round picks, and defensive tackle Broderick Martin. In return, the Lions would receive Myles Garrett, along with a fifth-round pick this year, which was actually Detroit's pick to begin with, before it was traded at the deadline for Zadarius Smith, and Cleveland's second-round pick next year. But that's not all. The trade would also come with a massive 4-year, $144.5 million contract extension for Garrett, with $94 million guaranteed at signing. Let's pause right there, Lions fans. That's a lot of assets to give up. But let's talk about why this could actually be worth it. First, let's talk about Myles Garrett. We're talking about one of the most dominant pass rushers in the league. The 6-time Pro Bowler and 4-time All-Pro selection recorded 44.0 sacks over the past 3 seasons alone. Last season, he was an absolute nightmare for opposing quarterbacks, racking up 14 sacks, 56 quarterback hurries, and 83 total pressures. His 92.8 pass rush grade from Pro Football Focus, second best in the entire NFL. This guy is a game wrecker, plain and simple. Now, imagine pairing him with Aiden Hutchinson. The thought of these two lining up on opposite sides of the line should terrify every quarterback in the NFC. Since Hutchinson entered the league in 2022, he and Garrett have combined for a staggering 72.5 sacks. That's elite production. The Lions' defense struggled with their pass rush last season. This move could take it to an entirely new level. Now, let's look at the other side of the equation. Does this trade make sense for the Lions? Brad Holmes has been very strategic in his roster-building approach. He's resisted the urge to go all in by trading away multiple draft picks for a superstar, even when the opportunity has been there. And let's be real, this trade proposal asks a lot. We'd be giving up multiple high-value draft picks, along with a young defensive tackle in Broderick Martin, to make it happen. Would it be worth sacrificing long-term flexibility for one elite player? There's also the salary cap angle. The Lions have the cap space to make this happen, no question. But Myles Garrett wouldn't come cheap. A new 4-year deal at over $36 million per year would make him one of the highest-paid defenders in the league. That's a major financial commitment, especially with an Aiden Hutchinson extension looming in the near future. So, here's where we land. Is this a deal the Lions should actually make? If you're thinking short-term, this is an absolute home run. The Lions are in win-now mode. We've locked up key pieces, and we're coming off a deep playoff run. This could be the move that puts Detroit over the top and into serious Super Bowl contention. But if you're thinking long-term, this deal is risky. Losing multiple high draft picks and committing a massive amount of cap space could create challenges down the road. Holmes has built this roster with a careful, calculated approach. Would this move fit into that philosophy? Now, let's shift gears and talk about another key element, the free agency and draft outlook for edge rushers. ESPN's Dan Graziano recently broke down the Lions' salary cap situation and what it means for a potential move at edge. The key question: do the Lions go for a big-name pass rusher, or do they take a more conservative approach? According to Graziano, Detroit is in a great position cap-wise and has the flexibility to make a big move. But as he points out, the Lions have built their roster in a very specific way. Would a blockbuster trade be out of character for this front office? He suggests that a more likely move would be re-signing Zadarius Smith while making a lower-risk addition through free agency or the draft. If the Lions decide to go that route, there are some interesting names in free agency. Josh Sweat is a name to watch. In the draft, this year's class has some solid edge talent that could be available in the late first round, like Penn State's Chop Robinson or UCLA's Laiatu Latu. So, Lions fans, here's the question for you. Should Detroit pull the trigger on a massive Myles Garrett trade, or should they stay the course and look for edge help through free agency and the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. And as always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the latest Lions news. Go Lions!